Let's lock in, Eagles fans. This is Devin Rodman, your host of the one and only Rod's Pod, soon to be #1 Eagles content in the nation. You heard it here first. Thanks for joining me today for today's first episode of Rod's Pod. Man, I'm so excited to get into all the things I've learned about the Eagles in the last couple months, years, that's led up to this podcast. A lot of time and hours have been put in researching on every second of camp, following Eagles beach reporters to get every single inch of content I can gather for you guys to present for you today on how players are trending, how the Eagles are trending after a horrid 2020 season, where we stand with a new coaching staff, new quarterback, new roster, and what our future looks like, which is ultimately what all Eagles fans are looking at right now, is how we're going to trend this year, 2022 and beyond. So super excited to give you all the information I gathered today. We got an excellent episode today prepared for you guys to go through the entire Eagles roster, each skill group, each position, where we're loaded, where I think we're a little weak, where we can improve, strengthen these weaknesses across the board. So super excited to get into it. Little background on me for people that might not know me. I'm currently 23 years old, living in Philadelphia. So I'm here where the Eagles play at the Link. Been to a couple open practices, been to an Eagles preseason game already this year. So I'm living in Philadelphia currently. Born in the Outer Banks, North Carolina. Went to school in Philadelphia where I played college basketball, which brought me to the city along with having family members here in the area as well. Grew up in an Eagles household. My dad's a diehard Eagles fan, the biggest Eagles fan you'll probably ever meet in the world. Always wearing Eagles gear. Went to almost all the Eagles playoff games in the early 2000s. Just an avid, diehard Eagles fan. Was here at the 2017 parade. Drove 7+ hours. So I was born into this family of Eagles fans where I've become myself a massive Eagles follower, huge Eagles fan, diehards. One of my favorite things to do is watch Eagles Sunday, Thursday, Saturday. Doesn't matter. Whenever they're playing, it's one of my favorite things to do. So that's how I've got to this moment, how I've really just developed a passion for covering the Eagles and providing content, and now I get to share my ideas on a platform, which is amazing. All right, that's a lot. It's a lot about me. Let's start getting into some Eagles content here. So I think it's best to start off where we left off in 2020. As everybody knew, super disappointing season, incredibly hard to watch, tons of turmoil within the organization. Lost our starting quarterback, Carson Wentz, our franchise guy, a guy that we drafted #2 overall, moved up to get, and we thought he'd be here for 10, 15+ years. Turns out he has by far his worst season ever in 2020. Statistically, one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, probably in the 30 to 35 range, where you're looking at borderline backup starting quarterback. Horrible. We also end up losing our our former head coach, Doug Peterson. Super Bowl champion Doug Peterson was let go this offseason, and new head coach Nick Sirianni was brought in by ownership and GM Howie Roseman. So massive changes. By far the craziest changes in Eagles history. You're losing your franchise quarterback, your Super Bowl winning head coach, your defensive coordinator, your offensive coordinator. The whole thing's blown up. The whole Eagles organization was blown up. So now we're here in 2021 with, I believe, massive optimism. I've loved what I've seen from this coaching staff, how they built this roster. I think the Eagles have really learned from mistakes they made in the past, which we'll get into. But I think all Eagles fans should have massive optimism of this new young core that we possess going into 2021. And when I say young core, I mean across the board. Coaching staff, very young. Not a ton of experience, tons of energy, tons of passion. What this Eagles team needed was this light, this fire given to them so they have something to play for. So they can come in ready to go every week. It's not the lackluster coaching staff we had in the past with Doug Peterson, although very good, much different style of experienced old coaching staff that presented a certain scheme, certain look. This is definitely a much more energized coaching staff and a much more energized team now. So where we're at in 2021, the initial 53-man roster officially came out yesterday as waivers cleared and everything went down. So we now have our full 53-man roster. So let's get going into different position groups here to go down the board of the Eagles position groups from quarterback all the way down to special teams. So let's start with no mystery here. The QB1 for the Philadelphia Eagles is Jalen Hurts. Hurts had a fantastic camp. Fantastic camp. He's done everything you can ask of a starting quarterback. He went through rumors of Deshaun Watson. So he's not here right now. He's not here. He went through all the rumors of Deshaun Watson. They're bringing him in. This is Hurts won't be here to start week 1. How he loves him. There's no faith. Hurts just puts his head down, keeps it moving, keeps it going. He's put the work in every day of connecting with his teammates, doing pop quizzes in the halls of certain offense and playbook schemes, making sure all the receivers are on the same page. He's connected with the defense. He's connected with the offensive line. Everybody raves about the guy. Everybody raves about the guy. Yesterday, Nick Sirianni in a press conference officially announced Jalen Hurts as his starting quarterback. Like we didn't already know, but he officially announced Jalen Hurts as his starting quarterback. That just shows that he's really had a good camp. Sirianni raved about him, about his playmaking ability, getting better every single day he comes to practice. He's gotten better. And that's what you're asking a young quarterback. You want to see improvement. Sure, there's going to be mistakes. Hurts has missed a little high sometimes across the middle of the field, which has led to a couple of interceptions. But that does not outweigh the playmaking ability he's shown. Throws a really good deep ball, can really extend plays and make the life in the offensive line easier. He creates a whole new playbook that we don't have with a pocket passer. Say Nick Foles or even Carson Wentz to an extent that couldn't really move as well after his injury. So he creates a whole new playbook for the Eagles that can utilize his legs, his playmaking ability, and I think he just fits this roster. I really do think he fits this roster with receivers, running back core around him. QB2, Joe Flacco, had a great camp. Overall, I mean, that might be a surprise to some, but he had a great camp overall. He's looked good. He's a good option for Jalen as a mentor. He's played well in that last preseason game against the Jets. He looked really good. Had a rough outing versus the Patriots in week 2. Started with a bad snap from Herbig and the kind of trickled down. But overall, he's had a good camp. He's a good QB2 right now, which might be later removed by our new QB3, Gardner Minshew. But he's a good mentor, and he's good for a year to preach different principles, show work ethic, and to just explain to Jalen everything he's seen in the last 10, 15 years. So a great addition to the QB room. And lastly, the new face, Gardner Minshew. I mean, you gotta give Howie props here. He got a 25-year-old quarterback with 20 starts under his belt for a 6th-round pick, which he eventually got back after he traded Matt Pryor, a guy that the Eagles were going to cut in the offensive line room, and a 7th-rounder. Howie's got to get credit there, guys. If you love him, hate him, he's got to get credit. He brought in a young guy, if Hurts goes down, that is capable of winning. He's going to continue to push Hurts to be better. Joe's really not going to push him. He's more there as a mentor, but he will push Hurts. So keep Hurts on edge, and not on edge to lose his job, but on edge of, I got to keep getting better every day. Not that Hurts needs it. He does it anyways. He's a monster when it comes to work ethic, always staying after practice, doing all the right things. That's the QB room. Overall, I think we've upgraded there from a sense of when we started in camp with Nick Mullins, had a brutal camp. We'll see how Hurts progresses against Carson Wentz, but I mean, that's a good room. Gardner Minshew, Flacco with experience, and Hurts with his young playmaking ability. It's a good room overall. Running back, one of my favorite positions on the entire roster. Got 3 stud running backs. I mean, stud running backs. There's no doubt about it. 1, Miles Sanders. This is really a contract year for Miles Sanders. He wants to get extended. Make or break year. He's got to show strides. He's done it, right? You see the 60, 70, 80-yard runs that he rips off out of nowhere. But he hasn't had the touches and the consistency that the Eagles are saying, okay, we need to extend this guy. This guy deserves his second running back money, which a lot of running backs don't get, and sometimes people view it as mistakes. But he needs to prove that he deserves that money. So I think he's going to have a great year behind this offensive line, one of the strengths of the Eagles. I think he's had a fantastic year running the football. He's got to clean up the drops. He's dropped a lot of balls in training camp, which has been a concern, and especially from that rookie season where you have all this built-up anticipation of him being a 3-down back. He's got to get better catching the football. I think he'll progress with Kenny Gainwell now in the room pushing him. I think he's going to have a great year. 2, you got Boston Scott. That's a great RB2 option. I mean, this guy's played well. He's the giant killer, as everybody knows, but he's played well throughout his career. Great second option, run the football. He's shown that he can do in the passing game, provides versatility for the offense. And lastly, one of my favorite players out of the draft, Kenny Gainwell. This dude is a stud. A stud. I'm telling you right now, he's going to have a role in this offense and an elite role in this offense with the first team. He's easily their best pass-catching back. You can line him up in the slot. You can put him one-on-one against a linebacker. You can line him up outside. He's caught 50-plus balls in college. He's done it for a long, long time. Catching the football in college, he's shown that. He's shown it already in the NFL, in training camp, and preseason. Miles Sanders already on record saying he's got the best hands in the room. That's a good room right there, guys. Definitely one of the strengths of the Eagles, Miles, Boston, Kenny. All right, going to the wide receiver room. This is a room that probably over the years has provided Eagles fans with the most frustration. It seems like we never have had that number one receiver. Enter, fall from heaven, the Messiah, the Heisman winner, Devontae Smith. Man, this dude is as advertised. His route running is easily the best in the room. Pristine. He's done it, they said, against joint practices in the Jets. There's a couple Eagles reporters on record saying it reminds them of a one-on-one versus Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson, probably the best one-on-one player. Maybe Kyrie can throw a couple others in the mix, but one of the best, hardest guard one-on-one players in the NBA history. That's what Devontae Smith reminded him of, a respected Eagles beat reporter. I mean, that's incredible for a rookie. Sirianni's been on note saying he's the most polished receiver he's seen since Keenan Allen, one of the best route runners in the NFL. He's about to explode with Jay Herbert this year. The dude's off the charts. I saw him in open practice. He can't get touched off the line. He's maybe 170 pounds, but you can't touch him. You can't touch him. He's got 4.3 speed once he gets in stride. Super quick, super pristine, stopping back and forth. He's stud, and he's the number one Eagles receiver that people have been wanting for years. And what else has Eagles fans been craving for? Speed, speed, speed. That's where my 2 and 3 receivers come in. Your starting receivers for the Philadelphia Eagles this year are 100% going to be Smith on the outside, and you're going to have Rager to start the season on the outside, which would probably be interchangeable with my guy, Quez Watkins. Rager, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins will be your starting receivers for the 2021 Eagles season. It's a lot of playmaking, guys. Watkins and Rager are 4.35 guys. 4.35, 4.4 guys, tops. When they hit their max speed, they're going in that 4.3 range. So you combine Hurts with that type of speed, a number one receiver, and that running back room, that's reason for optimism. That's a lot of playmaking ability. You're going to see a lot of deep shots. You're going to see a lot of extended plays. And this speed and Watkins and Rager, that's going to be good when Hurts is extended. They got to find avenues when they hit that next burst. Give them bubble screens. You're going to see a ton of bubble screens to Watkins and Rager. Give them the ball and let them move behind the offensive line, behind these big offensive linemen that we have. So, this is an interesting receiver room. And then at your 4 and 5, you got J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, your 5th receiver, who made it over Travis Fulgham, which we'll get into later. And then you got Greg Ward, Mr. Reliable in the slot. That's solid. That's solid. I think you can definitely improve from 4 and 5. But 1 through 3, although unproven, provides a lot of optimism. They've been working hard. They've killed dudes in one-on-ones and in open practices. Versus the Patriots, who have J.C. Jackson, top 10, 15 cornerback in the National Football League. They went to the Jets, killing these dudes there. They're fast, they're hard to cover, and they're really intriguing. Young core, 22, 23, 22 years old, those top 3 guys. That's intriguing. That's what you want to see from your receiver room. Young, explosive, can make some plays. Tight end room, probably the most interesting room we've seen at the Eagles, just because of strictly Zach Ertz. We didn't think he was going to be here. That room it's good. They got 2 top 10 tight ends. They got Goddard, who's in a contract year, who's been a young guy that's always produced for them. They have Ertz, the best Eagles tight end in history, one of the best players in the franchise history. Got a chance to break Harold Carmichael's record this year. Ertz has looked good running routes, looks healthy. looks good to go. Having a much better camp than he had last year to bank off that kind of down year. It was a down year from what he's usually doing. Definitely was a down year. He had a poor year last year. But he's looked good. Now you got this 12 personnel you can run with Goddard and Ertz. Two super stable, solid guys for Jalen Hurts to throw the ball to with that young receiving core. There's your security blankets. You got explosiveness. You got power down the field with your receiving core. You got your security blankets in the middle with Goddard and Ertz. And then here they got They took Jack Stoll and Tyree Jackson as their 3 and 4 tight ends. A little bit on Tyree Jackson. Used to be a quarterback in college. Was a quarterback at the University of Buffalo. Dude runs a 4.6. He's super tall, 6'7", 250 plus. He's just a freak. He's a freak. And he's a guy that's never played tight end. And he was a star of camp, Tyree Jackson. He recently got hurt, fractured his back. So he's going to be on IR probably 6 weeks. But after he gets back, if he's healthy, he feels good, he might contribute. He's been that good. He's one of those guys that Howie hits on where he's going after a freak of nature, right? Howie has a scout specifically for college basketball players where he's trying to see who could convert, who could be a tight end in the National Football League, who can transfer over like a Jordan Mailata coming from a rugby who's going to be a star this year. I mean, these are the type of guys Howie's looking for as the gems, and he's been really good at finding those gems. He gets a lot of slack and a lot of hate for his first, second-round picks, where sometimes he should get that hate. Don't get me wrong. He should receive some of those some of that criticism for some of the guys he's taken in the first and second. But Tyree Jackson, man, he provides a lot, and I mean a lot of upside. I can see him contributing next year at a high level with the way he's progressing, a very high level. And then lastly, Jack Stoll made it over Richard Rodgers. This is just showing the youth, emphasis on youth that Howie and this organization is placing in their guys. They took Jack Stoll, undrafted free agent out of Nebraska, over Richard Rodgers, a vet who's done well for the Eagles when their tight ends go down. Jack Stoll looked really good in the preseason games that I saw. He makes the right blocks. He has great positioning, great IQ of finding the ball when it's a little off track. Had a nice one-handed catch in a preseason game. Made a couple big blocks, just like solid. He's a great piece that you want as your 4 tight end. I mean, I think if he went to waivers, he could have been a guy that didn't pass through. So I think Howie was smart to keep him on the 53. All right, here we go now. We got offensive line. All right, guys, so offensive line is easily, and I say easily, our strongest unit. Offense and defense line, sorry. They're both our strongest units, but offensive line on offense is easily our strongest unit. I mean, this is a real deal offensive line, if healthy. Real deal. And everybody's healthy right now, so that's all we can look at. I mean, you look at this right side of Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson, that's the best right side in football. The best right side in football. They got 3+ Pro Bowls on them. All pros, Super Bowl champions, and the biggest thing is the chemistry. These dudes are so good at passing off linemen, passing off into each other, staying strict to their principles, standing guys up, strong, fast. I mean, these guys are athletic, they're strong, and they're freaks. Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson, easily the best right side in football. And then you got Kelsey. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Eagles Hall of Fame, regular Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Fame, everything. This dude's a monster. He could still play. This is 10+ years he's been playing the National Football League. Been such a solid center for the Eagles all these years. Super athletic, uber athletic. Great center. Still top 10 in the league currently. And he's just a beast for the Eagles every year in, year out. Left tackle, the one and only Jordan Mailata. I mean, this dude is something you should really get excited about, Eagles fans. Really. I mean, people go into camp and they say he's dominating. In joint practices, dominating. Brian Baldinger, offensive line analysis for the National Football League, came in and he said he thinks Mailata is going to be the most dominant left tackle in football. This guy didn't even play football 3 years ago. How we got this guy in the 7th round, he played rugby. Just saw the big body, the big frame, gave him to Jeff Stoutland, who is our Eagles offensive line coach. Jeff Stoutland, one of the best position coaches in the National Football League, probably the best coach on the Eagles, hands down. Year in, year out, he puts a line capable even with guys who never played before. He's created one of the better offensive lines for the past couple years he's been here. So he's a monster. Jordan Mailata is going to have a fantastic year. Beat out Dillard in training camp. It was an open camp between Andre Dillard and Jordan Mailata. Mailata easily beat him out, hands down. It wasn't even a competition. He was just named the starter with Hurts the other day from Serrani, but like Hurts, everybody knew he was the left tackle one. He's going to be a big piece for the Eagles this year in the blind side. Really moves well. Athletic freak. 6'8", 360, 370. Great get off. Super long arms, strong, can really hold defense ends in place. He's going against Josh Sweat and Barnett every day in practice. I mean, you don't get better right end play of the depth that the Eagles have than those guys. So he's sharpening. Iron sharpens iron. He's really becoming better, more polished guy. So he's something to really be intrigued about going forward into the 2021 season. Lastly, you got left guard. Not the biggest name, Isaac Salamalu, solid left guard, really solid left guard, has a lot of experience, played the National Football League and high level for a while now. Solid left guard, he's played well, coming off injury, so there's expected to be maybe a little bit of a learning curve of the offense, the new schemes, but he's looked really good. Nothing to be concerned about by any means. Just a solid piece in that offensive line rotation that the Eagles are going to really count on going forward into this 2021 season. Now looking at the reserves, my favorite reserve, I'll tell you right now, is Jeff Driscoll. Driscoll, I mean, he could play every position besides center. He's cross-trained from tackle to guard, and the Eagles really love versatility, right? So when they're picking linemen, they want guys that can cross-train from tackle to guard, from left tackle to right tackle, guard to right tackle, left guard to left tackle. They really like to cross-train these guys, so if somebody goes down, they're versatile enough to pick and choose what position they can play. And Driscoll, man, he's not the strongest guy in the world. He's gotten stronger in the offseason. He's real good at standing people up. He's real good at using his leverage. Super high IQ guy. Has gotten so much better already in this year after gaining experience playing last year. That's the biggest thing is most of our offensive line depth started games last season. So they have starting offensive line experience after everybody went down. And now they're in a position where now they're just gaining even more experience practicing behind these legitimate starters and one of the better offensive lines in football. So if somebody goes down, they'll fit right in. They'll blend right in. And Driscoll's my favorite, man. I think he just performs at every position, guard, tackle. He plays well. He's just a super high IQ, super really developed guy under Stoutland in year 2 already. He's looked awesome. He's one of my favorites. Next, you got Nate Herbig, guy who plays center and guard. I think he struggles a little bit at center. I don't think it's natural for him. I think he's good at left guard, right guard. He's a big guy that's lost weight over the offseason, put a lot of work into getting his body ready, into the best shape he can be, because he might have to play a little bit if somebody goes down at the guard position. I mean, it's no secret that our offensive line has had some injury troubles. So having this extended depth of Nate Herbig, who started games last year, who looked good, who's very capable to come in at guard or center if somebody goes down, is awesome. Another depth piece that the Eagles have. Brett Toth, real good player, man. Real good player. He played tackle in college, and now he's cross-training of left tackle, right tackle, guard. He's looked good as well. I mean, he played at Army, I believe, in college. 2 years at Army. He's looked really good. Yeah, Army product, 6'6", 304. He's refined his pass pro. That's one thing. The Army ran a ton in college, obviously. They're one of those systems where there's run heavy, not a lot of passing, but he's really refined his pass coverage. He's looked really good in preseason. Like, he looks like he blends in. A lot of these guys that are stout just look like they blend in, and they just develop so well. He's a guy the Eagles had to keep on their 53. I don't think he clears waivers either if they put him on the practice squad and initially release him. So they have to keep him on his 53. He's a piece that can help them going forward as well. Dillard, left tackle. I think people talked about potential trades, potential cuts. You got to keep the guy. I mean, depth in the National Football League is hard to come by in the offensive line room. So you put him on. I mean, you let Mailata start, who's a stud, and you put him, even though he's a first-round pick, he's still good depth. Let him continue to progress. Let him continue to develop under Stout and try to get stronger. Right now, he just gets pushed around too easily. He's just not strong enough to play tackle in National Football League with these big, strong defensive ends. He doesn't really cross-train. He's only really a left tackle, which kind of limits his versatility that the Eagles like. He's had a really disappointing camp, a real poor camp. It started as an open competition with him and Mulata ran away with it. And granted, Dillard did get injured, but it was already Mulata's before that, and he just gets pushed around too much. It looks like a miss on how he's part in the first round. Trade value right now is probably 6th or 7th rounder, so it doesn't really make sense to trade him. I put him there. Hopefully he develops, continue to grow his game. I mean, he got hurt last year, so maybe he's still returning from that. Just a real disappointing camp from Dillard. I was hoping he made it at least a competition, so to prove that he is well worth the roster spot and well worth this a shot at left tackle, but he really hasn't improved that. I don't even know if he'd be on the roster if it wasn't for meritocracy and he was a first-round pick. So definitely disappointment, but still good to have a depth of a first-rounder because the talent's there. So I think that's it. I think they put KO'd Adewasku on their practice squad, who's looked really good. Another guy that they loved and they thought he was like a steal, they thought. They didn't really play him much in the preseason because they didn't want other teams to get a look at him when he got sent to waivers and potentially take him. So he's been on the practice squad. They really like the progression of him. He can play in this league for sure. Traded Matt Pryor to the Colts for a 6th-rounder. Matt Pryor 7th for a 6th-rounder, which is another awesome move by Howie. Basically getting that 6th-rounder back for Minshew. So now you got your full offensive line. You got 10 guys that can really contribute and really play. This is a good offensive line across the board, and we're going to have to live in the trenches if we want to win games. We're going to have to dominate the line of scrimmage, which I think they will do, to complement that run game with Hurts, Miles, Boston, Kenny, and just keep Hurts safe and protected. You could say Carson Wentz was bad, which he was very bad, but poor offensive line play didn't help. So that's where we win games, is the trenches with that offensive line. All right, man, that's the whole offense across the board. Thoughts I have on the offense, again, we're going to have to win the trenches. We're going to have to dominate the trenches, which they have been doing in preseason and open practices. We have a possibility of having a top 10 offensive line in football, depth-wise. You have a top 10 offensive line in football in the National Football League. You're going to be in games. You're going to compete, especially if you're executing. You have a good game plan. That's where we have to live. I think it's going to be exciting offense. I think you're going to see a lot of deep shots, a lot of screen passes, and a lot of reliance on the run game. Use our speed and use our power. Use our speed in the passing game. Get the defense, try to take the top off. Hurst throws a pretty deep ball. Try to take the top off as much as possible. Get it to our receivers in open space where they can run. Give it to one-on-one opportunities with Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell in the backfield against linebackers, where I will take that any day of the week. And lastly, let Hurts be Hurts. Let him move around the pocket. Let him extend plays. Let him use his legs. He is at best when he's a gamer, when he's letting the game come to him. He's not thinking too much. Give him free reign, trust the offensive line in the trenches, and use that speed. That's what I think the game plan is going to be for the offense this year. All right, that was a lot. Hopefully that gave you a good idea of where we stand position group-wise. Notable cuts in the offense, Travis Fulgham. Clearly the number one notable cut in this Eagles offense. Had a real disappointing camp. Travis Fulgham, we all know last year for that 5-game stretch, one of the best receivers in football. Had a really disappointing camp. He started as the number 1 receiver, complement to Smith. They had him on the outside and for a majority and starting across the board. He came into camp as a clear-cut starter, which he probably should after what he did last year with that Eagles stint. Played his way out of the lineup with Quez pushing every week. Quez a standout. And then once Quez got to a point where he took Travis's spot, Travis was getting outplayed by J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Greg Ward. So he went from a starting receiver at the start of camp and given all the opportunities in the world to where he is now, which is on the Eagles practice squad, and not one team in the NFL wanted to claim him on waivers. That's a reality check for Travis Fulgham. Kind of the storyline of his career of just staying inconsistent. Got cut by the Lions, got cut by one other team, I forget who it was, and now he kind of got cut by the Eagles and signed to a practice squad. So, I mean, that's just a huge disappointment, the fact of a contributor. I really wanted to see what he would do in this complement of receivers. I think he would have been the big body guy, or if we need to throw it up at the goal line, a possession receiver. I don't think they should have potentially cut him. Maybe he gets pulled up a couple of times in the practice squad just because his potential. I would take even his potential and inconsistency over JJ or even over Greg Ward, who's Mr. Reliable, but that potential's there. He just got to put it together, and mentally he wasn't locked in, wasn't focused, and huge disappointment in camp. And then Richard Rodgers, I guess you can say, is another notable cut. Got replaced by Jack Stoll, who's just younger, had similar numbers, so they went youth there. So no real surprises, but Fulgham was a huge disappointment. All right, now let's look at the defense here. Going into the depth of the defense, we'll start with the trenches again and the defensive line unit. Oh my God, these dudes are monsters, absolute monsters. Headlined by the starting four: Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Hargraves, and Josh Sweat. Standouts from that unit: Hargraves had probably the MVP of camp, of disruption. He looks in shape. He looks strong, and he's not going to see many double teams with Fletch in there, and vice versa with Fletch. I mean, this interior of Fletch and Hargraves is one of the highest paid interiors in football, if not the highest paid. Hargraves getting $13 million a year, Fletch getting $17 million a year. So you expect this type of production, but it's here, and it's looking fantastic. I mean, Hargraves has been very disruptive in joint practices. They said there was a stretch versus the Jets where the Jets couldn't get a playoff because he was in the backfield every single play. Like, he's pushing people back, getting in the backfield, causing QB disruptions, causing sacks. There was multiple times where he sacked Hurts in our practices, where they considered a sack if he was there ready to hit the quarterback. Joint practices, same thing. They couldn't even get a playoff because he was so disrupted. That's impressive, man. He looks healthy. He's the guy the Eagles thought they were getting last year, and that's going to be a real strong front. The second camp MVP has been Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat has earned that right DN spot over Derek Barnett. They had an NFL analyst come in, Daniel Jeremiah, very well-known analyst, used to be actually a scout for the Eagles back in the day, said his first takeaway of Eagles practice was if Josh Sweat stays healthy, he's a fourth rounder from Florida State, had some knee problems at Florida State, but he says he's healthy. He says he's ready to take a workload. This is a contract year for him. He said if he stays healthy, Josh Sweat will have double-digit sacks this year. I mean, that's your first takeaway. That he has to impress you. Boston Scott says he's the fastest he's seen get off the ball at that right end position for his size. Incredible. He gets off the ball. He's extremely quick. Added moves to his arsenal, and he's a problem. He's given some problems from time to time. He's a real problem at that right end position. And then you add the depth of Barnett behind him. Opposite, you got Brandon Graham and Ryan Kerrigan. Two studs. I mean, Graham was a Pro Bowler last year. I believe he had 8.5 sacks last year. You had Ryan Kerrigan, who in that Washington front last year had 5.5. That's a real impressive unit. You got the young stud, Milton Williams, who I actually met at Cherry Hill Mall, got a picture with him. I walked up to him. I said, "Yo, are you Milton Williams?" And he was just starstruck. He's a rookie, so he doesn't have too many fans yet. He was like, "Yo, how do you know me? How'd you know I was him?" I mean, he did stand out. You're 6 foot plus, 270 in the lid store looking for a Phillies hat. But I mean, he's looked really good. He's gonna be a key piece in rotation. Only real surprise at this position was the rookie from USC, Marlon Tuapalta, I believe his name. How you pronounce his last name? He hasn't had a great camp, and he ended up making the roster. He's a Howie guy this year in this year's draft, 6th rounder. They emphasize that they're going with youth this year, so they chose to choose him over the D tackle of Ridgeway. So they took him over Ridgeway, who's a vet in the league. He's played for the Eagles, had good production over the years, but they took him. They emphasized youth of, hey, we want to develop these guys instead of cutting them or putting them in the practice squad. We want to develop them. So they're here for 5, 10 plus years, however long they're here for, instead of cutting them, losing them to another roster, and then that's just it. So they're choosing to go youth this year. He was the key surprise. I don't think he had a good camp. He got pushed around a ton. Doesn't seem ready. Hopefully he doesn't get that many playing time at that D tackle spot, and Hargraves and Cox dominate, but just something to look at there. But that core that starting core with the depth behind with Kerrigan, Barnett, Milton Williams, that's real solid, and they're going to be disruptors this year. If we're going to win games, offensive, defensive line are going to dominate the line of scrimmage, and they're gonna cause some problems. They're going to cause some problems. So that's your defensive end group as well, and Teron Jackson as well. Teron Jackson is a guy that I really like personally. Late day 3 pick, 6th rounder. Not a lot of high hopes from day 3 guys, but that's where you find your gems, right? 5th, 6th, 7th round. Those roster bubble guys that can develop into starters going forward. And Teron Jackson kind of fits that mold for me. He's shown real flashes of upside, right? Got a super motor, always looking for the ball, always trying to get after the ball, doesn't quit on plays. To me, he's a speed guy with a little bit of power, but he's more speed. He really tries to get around that edge as fast as he can. Defensive end, I don't know if you can move him inside much, but he's a solid defensive end, pass rush threat. Showed some flashes in the preseason, had a nice tackle for loss when it was just him and the running back eye to eye. Cleanly beat the lineman eye to eye with the running back, made the play on a crucial 3rd down stop in a preseason game. But again, that's meaningful snaps for these guys, right? Those preseason games are the most meaningful snaps these roster bubble guys can get. And he performed well, had a couple QB hurries, really showed flashes of high motor and speed, which will be his niche going forward. Had a couple spin moves he tried, so he has a little bit of an arsenal. Good speed guy, young guy. Again, how he's going with this youth movement of development, go youth over veterans if it's a close call. So now we got a young guy, young pass rusher that can learn under Josh Sweat, Barnett, Brandon Graham, some really good mentors. So Teron Jackson was the final piece to that initial 53. Now we're going to move towards a unit that usually has been a unit of lack of depth for us. One that we haven't put a lot of emphasis in, one that we kind of neglect year to year, and that's the linebacker position. I am very intrigued by our linebacker position. It's serious depth, fun, really young linebackers that fly to the ball, have high potential, and we're a little bit even more experienced in the fact that it's not all young guys, where we have Singleton and Wilson who are young but have like real experience in the league. 2-3 years now of experience, playing in the National Football League and have performed well. Alex Singleton and Eric Wilson will be your Mike and Will starting linebackers, with a Sam role, which is new to Jonathan Gannon's system. So you have a Mike, Will, and a Sam linebacker. The Mike and Will are more fly to the ball, follow the ball, make tackle kind of linebackers in this Jonathan Gannon system. Again, Jonathan Gannon is our defensive coordinator for the Eagles. So Mike and Will are really chasing the ball, trying to make plays, more coverage guys. That Sam position, what Jonathan Gannon has called the hybrid position, is going to be more of a pass rush, disruptor, set the edge kind of guy. So he's looking for more pass rush experience and kind of a transition guy between a DN/linebacker. So we'll go into the options in a second here. But let's start with Alex Singleton, man. This is one of my favorite players on the defense. Bright spot of 2020. Alex Singleton was a bright spot of 2020. Last year he had 120 tackles. And he only started 11 games, weeks 6 through 17. So he had 120 tackles, which is good enough to be 15th overall in the National Football League. And he didn't play a significant amount of time in 6 games. That's pretty impressive. 120 tackles, 15th in the league in tackles, and he didn't even touch the field in the first 6 games, really. He played 100% of snaps from week 8 onward, and he averaged 11 tackles a game. If he puts that type of stat line together for entire season, he would have over 170 tackles, which would be number 1 in the NFL. I have huge projections for Alex Singleton this year. One of my best bets, long shot bets that I have, I can't ignore the value, is Alex Singleton plus 5,000 to lead the league in tackles. Slept on guy, only had 120 last year, which was still 15th in the NFL, but he didn't play much in 5 to 6 games. He's going to be a staple for this defense. He's looked fantastic in camp, and he's a tackle monster. Even the preseason this year, he was flying around making tackles. So, I mean, that's a bet if you want to put it on your radar, Alex Singleton plus 5,000 to lead the league in tackles. I think he has potential to do it. I can easily see a 150 tackle season for him. He's just that kind of guy, super high motor, playing for his career. He's a CFL journeyman, so he has a different sense of pride playing in the National Football League now that he's here and he's an Eagles uniform. He's perfect for the city, blue-collar guy, just plays his heart out. He overachieves every time he steps on the field. So love the addition of Alex Singleton and another year with the Eagles and getting a more certified, solidified role. Next to him, we got Eric Wilson from the Minnesota Vikings, signed a one-year deal this offseason to play alongside Alex Singleton. He's improved in every year. So he started off with, I believe, 40 tackles, 62 tackles the next year, and last year he put up a pretty good number of 122 tackles in 15 games. So you combine him with Singleton, that's a lot of tackling ability on the field at the linebacker position. Super solid unit to rely on behind that defensive front. There's going to be tons of opportunities for them to crush holes, to stop running game in the backfield. Both of them have to improve a little bit in pass coverage, but I think Eric Wilson's probably a little bit better than Singleton right now. But solid linebacking core for the Eagles. They're improved in that position for sure. And then when you look at depth, to shape out this roster, you have Davion Taylor, draft pick from last year, third rounder. Raw talent guy, but starting to get better. Looks super fast, super athletic. Definitely a coverage linebacker, so he kind of complements that group well if we do need to go to a third down linebacking type guy of come and bring it in here. You know, it's a pass play coverage kind of linebacker there. So he's a good depth piece at the linebacker position. TJ Edwards is a 2-year guy, another young guy who's looked good, had a good camp. He provides some versatility in the fact that if you want to move Singleton to that Sam role, where there's more, that Sam position is more at the line of scrimmage, crushing the A-gap, crushing the side, making sure the ends are solid and keeping that edge, you can put Edwards in that other will spot, and he's capable. He's a good tackler. He's a young guy that's learned throughout the last couple of years. And then lastly, you have Sean Bradley. He's a hometown guy, Temple guy. To me, he's still a couple steps behind, but he's not a bad depth piece. Another young guy that was taken in last year's draft. Developmental guy. You don't know what he's going to turn out to be in a year or two. Good piece to have on the roster. And then lastly, to round out the entire line grabbing group, we just went through the Mike and Will. There's 2 candidates right now for the Sam position. So you got, for the Sam position, you have Jannard Avery, who is a guy that we got from the Cleveland Browns a couple years ago to try to be a stud pass rusher. Hasn't done well as a defensive end, got hurt a couple times, and the production just hasn't been there. He decided to transition to linebacker this year. He fits that mold that Gannon wants of a mix between a linebacker and a coverage. And a pass rusher. So he can fit that mold of he can get up the field, he can challenge tight ends and tackles and set an edge. You can put him in the A gap. He can battle with guards and centers, and he's slimmed down a little bit to play linebacker now, so he got a little bit more coverage instincts. So he's a guy that Gannon has been running with the ones when he's healthy. Behind him, they have Patrick Johnson, a rookie taken in this year's draft. Produced double-digit stacks in college in 2 years. Really good pass rusher, but he's small and undersized, about 6'2", 230. So he kind of fit that mold also of trying to transition into that linebacker role. I'm sure when they drafted him, Gannon had in mind that he'd be that kind of guy where he'd come in the same position to see how he does. In camp, I've heard that he's looked good sometimes. A rookie, hasn't made too many plays, but hasn't made that too many mistakes. He could see some time on the field. Personally, I think until they figure out a solid piece between Avery and Johnson, that Sam role won't be as important to this offense. To this defense, and they'll lean with Singleton and Wilson and bring Edwards in from time to time and maybe add another corner on the field. But they're there, and they provide a different element of the defense we're not used to seeing, so we'll see how that progresses. But again, a good linebacker core that's young, better than most years, and I think is going to be a tackling machine this year. Awesome. So now we got cornerback. Eagles fans' worst nightmare over the years, right? We go through 2020. We got 2-3 guys that Eagle fans probably never heard of. Michael Jacquet, Craig James, Seymour, playing legitimate minutes in outside corner and slot. Nikel Roby Coleman, who's no longer with the Eagles. These guys were starting cornerbacks in the National Football League and played real minutes for us. And now this year, most of those guys got cut and put on our practice squad. So that shows already the increase of talent that we've accumulated this offseason at the cornerback position. No surprises here. Your QB1 will be Darius Slay. Super solid corner in the entire National Football League. Probably the best corner we've had in years with the Philadelphia Eagles since Asante Samuel, Sheldon Brown, Lito Shepherd. He's one of the better corners we've had in this time frame. He's gonna play 100% of the snaps. He's gonna get a really tough assignments week to week. I think Gannon's going to try to move him and shade him with the other team's best receiver. I think he's going to take on that responsibility. I think he had a couple games last year where he kind of got lit up by DK Metcalf and other receivers that put a chip on his shoulder. I think he wants to come out there and show that he's a top 5 cornerback in the National Football League, top 10 guy in the National Football League, even at his age where he's getting a little bit older. So I think Slay's going to have a great year. He's had a great camp, been step for step with all our receivers. Got beat a couple times here and there, but consistently he's been good. And at the cornerback position, you're going to get beat. It's your consistency. Can you be in the right positioning most of the time? Are you getting pass breakups? Are you getting interceptions from time to time? And are you just incorrect positioning where you're supposed to be? If tough catches are made, they're made, but you're there. And Darius Slay consistently does that. He's going to do that again this year. He's got some pieces around him now at the QB2 slot, better in the inside, better safety group. So I think he's going to have a great year. The big signing for the Eagles this offseason, probably the most important signing, was Steven Nelson. We didn't have a true cornerback, too, before we signed Steven Nelson. Eagles fans should rave about Steven Nelson, make him feel at home. Don't make him hate the city at all. Love him, preach him, and we need him here. He's a big physical corner, different from Slay in the fact Slay is more of a technician, really good at positioning, footwork-wise, and staying with you. Nelson's physical, wants to get into you at the line of scrimmage, wants to jam you, wants to make you feel him. And he's good step for step as well, but he's more physical. So different style corners that complement each other well, can tire out receivers in different ways. You could throw Slay at a guy, then throw Nelson where he can be physical and give him a different look. By far the best cornerback two we've had here in years. This is the best cornerback duo we've had probably since Sheldon and Lito. So this is a group to be excited about. They're gonna be significantly better than in 2020. And now you can move Maddox to the inside. Maddox isn't a bad corner. He's a good slot guy. He's played outside for the last 3 years, drafted by the Eagles, grown in-house. So they have a sense and a feel for how he plays. And I think everybody knew that Maddox was a little bit uncomfortable on the outside, including me. I think he's more of a slot guy, a little bit smaller, can stay with those quicker guys in the inside, let Nelson handle the outside with his physicality now, stay inside where he's more comfortable, where he feels better, he looks better. So this whole entire unit got better with the addition of Steven Nelson. Maddox goes inside, you increase your depth at the position, and now you have a good starting trio of Slay, Nelson, and Maddox. Really good starting trio, definitely an improvement from last year. And it's going to be fun to watch, and especially with this defensive front of how they mold and gel together in the back end as well. So depth-wise behind them, you got two different type of corners. Your first is your rookie, Zach McPherson. Zach looked really good in camp. Was making pass breakups all the time, was getting first team time when Darius Slay was in a rest day. First outside corner off the bench. Started to beat out Jaquette and Craig James, who got time last year, who saw time on the field last year. Granted, they might have not played well, but they got time. So he's opened eyes in the coaching staff as a 4th rounder in the draft this year, rookie. He plays well. He's fast, got good instincts, and he's had a good camp. He got picked on by Cam Newton in the preseason game. Did not have a good showing there. Has looked worse in the preseason than practices, 100%. But you can see the improvement there. He's a younger guy. He doesn't have to step on the field right away, hopefully, if we stay healthy. So he's a good addition to that room. And lastly, we have Josiah Scott. Josiah Scott was a guy Howie traded for from the Jaguars for a 6th-round acquisition. He is a inside guy, so I guess the thought process here from Howie was let Jaquette and Craig James go to practice squad. They're outside guys, and he believes Zek's better than them. You traded for Josiah Scott, strictly the inside guy. He can sit in the slot in case Maddox goes down. We have a good replacement. It's interesting. I probably would have kept 6 corners because of the misery we've had at corner over the years. So maybe they bring one up from the practice squad from time to time. But right now it's 5 with the solid core of Maddox, Slay, and Nelson. And then you got Josiah and Zek coming behind them, which isn't fantastic depth, but it's better than we've had in the past. And across the service, that starting group is pretty dang good. So that position has increased. Still a little bit slim, but it's increased. And then lastly, we got our safety position. The big name here was Anthony Harris. Anthony Harris from the Minnesota Vikings. This dude, he's super intriguing, right? In 2019, he was voted the best safety by PFF. He had the best PFF rating, led the league in interceptions, best coverage rating, and he was fantastic. He was really good. Last year in 2020, not so good as he was in 2019, but still solid, played well, capable, definitely an upgrade that we have. And the potential and talent is worth a risk, right, of signing him. We signed him for a 1-year, $5 million deal. That's pretty cheap and pretty enticing for the Eagles to get a guy in 2019 who was the best safety in football. Schemes change. You never know if it was a scheme thing. Maybe he wasn't healthy. But he's got potential. He's looked good in camp. I think his closing speed's really good. When the ball's in the air, he's meeting the receiver on impact of the catch. Always been good in coverage. One of the best coverage quarters since 2018. So he's a significant increase. I don't know how they got him as cheap as they did. Super happy about that signing and solidifying that position. It was probably Mills in the past that was theirs. They let him go in free agency. I think Anthony Harris is an upgrade over Mills, who was kind of conversion safety to begin with. Super excited for Anthony Harris. Beside Anthony Harris, we got an Eagles favorite, Rodney McLeod. He's coming off a crucial injury. Just got taken off the physical unable to perform list, the PUP list, a couple days ago. So he's now practicing, which is good. So if they take him off that PUP list, that means they expect him to play before week 6, right? So if you keep him there, he can't play till week 6, you get another roster spot. But now the Eagles put him on the active 53, so they expect him to be there maybe week 1, maybe week 2, but before week 6, which is a good thing for this defense. He played extremely well last year, was a bright spot with Alex Singleton, solid at that safety position while he was playing. So having him back will immediately make us better. He's got great ball skills. He's played the game at the high level for years now. He's a good addition with Anthony Harris, and I want to see how they mold and form together and how they learn to play with each other. So hopefully he's available for week 9. If not, it'll probably go between the last 2 safeties on the roster, Epps and Kayvon Wallace. 2 guys that I think they're both average, maybe even below average. Maybe they can play the potential, but none of them are standing off on paper where you're really scared of them if you're an opposing offensive coordinator. So you drastically improve if you get Rodney McLeod back. So we'll hope for the best there. But you do have some depth in Epps who's capable. He's just not going to stand out and make super plays. Kayvon Wallace, they're hoping he would take over the job this year while McLeod was hurt. Had an up and down camp, hasn't made a ton of plays, hasn't made a ton of mistakes. He's just kind of been there like Epps of, he's not flashing. He doesn't give you those flashes, right? He's solid, doesn't make a ton of mistakes, but still looks young and still just looks like he's not ready yet, not ready to take on that full workload. So safety is a position I think we need McLeod back at, to be quite honest with you. We need him healthier, quicker rather than later. It's a weaker position on that opposite side of Anthony Harris. I love Harris, but it's a weaker position on the opposite side if McLeod's not there. And even if he is there, he's still got to get back up to speed off of that devastating injury he suffered last year. So interesting position to monitor. They got Riley on the practice squad right now, so Elijah Riley. So maybe he gets brought up from time to time. He had a good camp. Didn't make the final cut, but he's on the practice squad, so maybe they bring him up if they feel like they are low on safety and those guys aren't ready. So that's how the safety position looks, and that's the outlook of the safety position. It's one of the weaker points on the roster. It's definitely one of the weaker points on the roster, but reason for optimism if they do get McLeod healthy. And that ranks all the position guys. So we went through the entire defense there. Some initial thoughts I have on this defense. It starts with coaching. I think Jonathan Gannon is a significant improvement with Jim Schwartz. He comes with serious energy. He comes with serious fire. He knows ball. Like when he's talking to the media members, they better be on their toes because he's firing right back at them with answers. And very intelligent guy, seen across the league as a rising head coach in 2 to 3 years. Sirianni's been on record that this is a 2-3 year interview process for Gannon, right? He knows he has him for 2 to 3 years to develop this defense, and then people are going to come after him. He's going to get a head coaching position in the NFL soon, especially if he takes this defense from being mediocre to what I believe is going to be a really good defense this year. So he's reason for optimism right off the bat. He's going to throw different schemes out there with that same. I think you'll see different game plans from week to week based on the opposing opponent. I think he's very adaptable in a sense where he'll put his guys in different situations based on a different game plan. We have the depth to do slot linebacker, especially if it's a run-heavy team versus a pass-heavy. He's going to rely on that defensive front to get pressure. You got 4 guys that are studs in the National Football League, very proven, very veteran presences. So he's going to rely on those guys to get pressure. And I think he's going to do a really good job, and I'm really impressed with what I've seen so far from him. Secondly is the defensive line. We go as far as our defensive line takes us on the defensive front. I mean, we got 7-8 guys that are legit players in the National Football League. Right, so I mean, we got breakout candidates with Hargraves and Sweat. We got guys that are consistently good with Brandon Graham and Cox. These are disruptors, man. It's hard to sit back and you can have a game plan all you want, but if you don't have time to throw the ball or run the ball, it doesn't mean anything. And that's how good these guys are. They are offense disruptors. They're in the backfield 1 to 2 seconds in that interior. I mean, your left guard, center, and right guard got to go through Hargraves and Cox every night, and then on the ends you got Josh Sweat, who is probably one of the camp MVPs. National analysts think he's going to get 10 plus sacks this season. Real quick get off, strong get off. Been easily a camp standout on the other side with Brandon Graham, who's our sole Pro Bowler last year. That's a really good front with depth with Kerrigan, who's, his reputation speaks for himself. Barnett, former first-round pick. Another guy in a contract year, he's produced as well. And then you got Milton Williams, who's the rookie, who's been a standout. That's a really good core. I think they'll be in the backfield a ton, and they're going to be a handful for opposing offensive lines. Cornerbacks, much improved with Darius Slay, Steven Nelson. This defense has top 10 potential. They're very veteran defense. I mean, you don't have many young guys anymore on this defense when it comes to cornerback play, when it comes to the defensive line play. Your young guys are more of your depth now. So if this starting core stays healthy, you're getting a veteran defense with a super fiery upcoming coach. That screams potential. So very optimistic for the defensive front, for the defense, including the front, the back end, and everything in general. This is going to be a good defense in my opinion. And then for your special teams, you got no surprises here. Jake Elliott, Aaron Sipos is our new punter, and then we have Levada as our long snapper. So that round. And that's the 2021 Eagles 53. That's the 53 that our coaching staff, our ownership, our executive level guys, such as the GM is Howie Roseman, have decided to go. When it comes to trends, you're seeing a lot of younger guys in taking veteran spots when it comes to those bubble roster guys. In the past, Eagles have leaned more veteran, and it's kind of hurt them in the sense of development, right? You've seen good development this year so far with Sirianni, Shane Steichen, and Jonathan Gannon, and the younger guys they're getting better every day. Quez Watkins came into camp and has improved every single day, young receiver. Jalen Reagor's improved since day one. Jalen Hurts improved since day one. Patrick Johnson, Taron Jackson have all improved since they've got here in camp. So I think Howie and ownership are saying we need to prepare ourselves for the future. We have some young talent here that are probably equally talented as our old veteran roster bubble guys. We're choosing to go young, see how they develop so we can prepare ourselves for 2 to 5 to 10 years down the line. I mean, you saw this last year with Alshon Jeffrey. Every Eagles fan in the world's pissed off because Alshon Jeffrey's getting these minutes instead of Travis Fulgham. But that's just how the Eagles have operated in the past. They had these guys, these veteran guys, that they gave the position to if they were healthy. They invested in them. They thought that because of reputation, they deserved the spot. Alshon Jeffrey comes in for Travis Fulgham. Fulgham's coming off the best 5 games of his career. Alshon goes in and really impedes his playing time and his confidence. Who knows where Travis Fulgham would be right now if he finished out the year, had the same production level. He's probably in a better mind state. He's probably not on the practice squad right now. Same with Jordan Peters with Andre Dillard and Mulata. I mean, Peters stunted their playing time heavily when he was here. He wasn't playing at a high level. We love Peters. He's a Hall of Famer. During that time frame, and Mulata looked good. He looked sharp, and I mean, that's really big minutes for a guy like Mulata who'd come in here as a development guy. Maybe Mulata's already a starter. Andre Dillard, maybe those are crucial minutes for him. So I mean, Mulata looks fantastic now, and it didn't stun his growth too much. But where would he be if he got those extended minutes? Maybe he's steps ahead where he's at right now. So I think they just put a real emphasis into developing younger guys, staying youth, counting on our veteran pieces to lead us, to win. Most of our great players on this roster are veteran guys. So we still need those veteran pieces, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to 2 guys that are equal level, they're going with a younger guy this year. And I'm going to be completely honest with y'all. I don't understand the media low expectations, the media hate. I understand you're not looking at camp. You're not there day to day. But this team has shown that they're not a joke, right? Bad teams don't win joint practices. Like the Jets, they're a bad team. We dominated the Jets. The Patriots, people think we're going to win 9, 10 games this year. We dominated the Patriots. That's because our roster, when healthy, is a good roster. Across the board, we don't really have a weak spot. I don't understand the 6.5 over-under win total. Maybe they're projecting injuries. Maybe they're projecting Hurts isn't going to be that good. Obviously, I'm very high on Hurts. I think he's done everything he could do to be the best starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. And when the games start, I think it's going to come out. But I just don't understand the such low expectations. Already saying we're going to be last in the division. I don't think that's even remotely true. I think we're light years ahead of the Giants already. I don't think the Cowboys' defense is even top 20, even top 25. Yeah, they have a high-powered offense, but you need both sides of the football. And the Eagles have never been a consistently bad organization. The Eagles have the quickest turnover team I've ever seen organization-wise. They don't have 2 extremely poor years. They just don't do it. They turn over. Well, I mean, we just lost our franchise quarterback and our Super Bowl winning head coach, and we flipped this roster around to a super energetic staff that has already improved and developed players that the old coaching staff really couldn't do. We've signed low cap free agents that have produced in this league and have made almost every position better across the board. Anthony Harris is an upgrade over Jalen Mills. Steven Nelson's upgrade over any CB2 we had last year. Linebacker position, Eric Wilson's better than the linebacking core we had last year. Young guys with Sean Bradley, TJ Edwards, and crew. Defensive line, we add Milton Williams in depth. Hargraves has gotten better, and Josh Sweat's ready for a breakout year. I mean, it goes on and on. This team is a much better team than they were last year. It's not even close. It's really not even close. I mean, you look at the offense side of the ball, we're healthy. We weren't healthy last year. We got our pieces back. Like, this team is a very good football team on paper. Can they execute? What kind of play call can Serrano be? We'll see. But on paper, they have the ability to compete for this division. They 100% have the ability to compete for this division, and they can be a good football team and be very competitive because of the groundwork and foundation they've created in the trenches and the supreme talent they built around these guys. So we'll see how the season progresses. I'm telling you guys right now, there's reason for optimism. After last year, I understand that you probably didn't think that, but there's tons of reason for optimism. I hope after going through that roster, you see why I'm so excited for this season. Like, we have talent at positions that we didn't have talent at last year. We've gotten better. This is a better football team in a transition year. Not to mention, for the future of three first-round picks, second-round pick, and some salary coming back next year and from years to come. Like, this organization's in a good place. We need to get all the heads on board. We need to get Sirianni, Howie, Jeffrey Lurie all in the same headspace. Trust guys, give them the leash, trust our talent, and go win some football games. But I'm super excited. You guys should be too. And I hope this kind of eased your mind, gave you some optimism on what we can look forward to during the year. Awesome, man. That was a great episode. I'm glad we got through all those things. Glad we got through the depth of the Eagles, and I hope you guys learned a ton and feel completely ready for Week 1. I want to tell you all about next week's episode. We're going to do an episode premiering Thursday. So we'll get this out to you guys in the morning Thursday. Don't have an exact time yet. I'll make sure I get it for you guys. But we're going to do a Thursday preview of the Cowboys versus Tampa Bay first game of the year. I'm going to give you my 5 best bets there. So this is going to be more of a sports betting show, gambling show. And then I'm going to give you an Eagles versus Falcon preview for Sunday. So this is going to be a big episode of preparing you for Week 1. What I think is going to happen versus the Falcons at the Eagles standpoint. Going to give you some bets in between for the Eagles-Falcon game as well as the Cowboys-Tampa Bay game. Because first game of the year, man, we got to get ready to go. So I'm going to get you another episode Thursday. I hope y'all enjoyed this one. I'm so glad to be able to do this with you guys and to share my thoughts on the Eagles and make sure to leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Let me know, give me some feedback of how you think, what do you want me to talk about next time. If you guys have any Eagles questions, shoot them my way. I'll give you the most real, authentic answer I can get. But besides that, I'm signing off. Peace out.